Michael Madison, 39, was on trial in Ohio in 2023 for the alleged murders of 3 women: Angela Deskins, Shatia Shilley, and Sharlea Terry. Madison is accused of kidnapping and killing the women before dumping their bodies in plastic bags near his home in East Cleveland. Police also discovered decomposed human remains in his apartment, where investigators found a gruesome scene. The apartment contained maggots, decomposition fluid, and evidence of a violent crime. Madison was arrested and charged with multiple counts of aggravated murder. If convicted, he faced the death penalty. During his trial, the defense claimed that the murders were not premeditated, but were committed in a sudden eruption of violence. However, the prosecution argued that Madison's actions were calculated, as he killed the victims in the same way and disposed of their bodies to avoid detection. As the trial progressed, the families of the victims were visibly emotional. During sentencing, the father of victim Sharlea Terry, Vanry Terry, addressed the court and directed his words towards Madison, saying that he and his family had forgiven him. However, as Madison grinned in response, Terry lost his composure and lunged at Madison. He was quickly subdued and removed from the courtroom by security, and he did not face any additional charges for the outburst. Judge Nancy McDonald addressed the severity of Madison's crimes, describing the murders as an act of sheer inhumanity, emphasizing the abuse Madison inflicted on the victims' bodies. Madison was convicted on all charges and sentenced to death for his role in the murders. He was sent to Ohio's death row, where he will remain.
Accordingly, the sentence of death is imposed upon the defendant Michael Madison on counts 1, 4, and 7.
In May 2022, 18-year-old Peyton Gendron carried out a mass shooting at Tops Friendly Markets in Buffalo, New York, targeting a predominantly black neighborhood. Gendron, wearing tactical gear, live-streamed the attack on Twitch as he opened fire on innocent victims. 10 people were killed and 3 others were injured, all of whom were African American. After the shooting, Gendron surrendered without resistance, and police found him attempting to kill himself, but he was talked down by officers. During the trial, the prosecution presented evidence that Gendron had planned the attacks for months, having traveled over 200 miles to reach the supermarket and preparing a racist manifesto that outlined his motivations. The weapon he used was marked with racist slurs and the names of previous mass shooters. At sentencing, emotionally charged family members addressed Gendron. One victim's family member stated, "We find strength in knowing that her legacy will outlive you," expressing that Gendron's life would be reduced to a number in prison. Another family member remarked that Gendron's life had been meaningless before the shooting, and that they wished him to suffer with the memory of his actions.
Man, you don't know a damn thing about black people. We're human. We like our kids to go to good schools. We love our kids. We never go in no neighborhoods.
As the woman spoke, a man from the victim's family charged at Gendron, but he was quickly detained and removed from the courtroom.
Don't do it.
Gendron was given a chance to speak, where he expressed remorse, apologized, and admitted to committing the crime out of hate. He stated he couldn't believe he had gone through with the attack and urged others not to follow in his footsteps.
I'm very sorry for all the pain I forced the victims and their families to suffer through. I'm very sorry for stealing the lives of your loved ones.
Despite his apology, the judge showed no mercy, condemning Gendron's actions as a direct attack on a community and a civilized society. The judge sentenced Gendron to a life in prison without the possibility of parole, ensuring that he would never again be a free man. Larry Nassar, the former USA Gymnastics team doctor, was convicted of multiple sexual abuse charges after being accused of sexually assaulting hundreds of young gymnasts under the guise of medical treatment. Many of his victims were Olympic athletes, and Nassar manipulated them into trusting him as a mentor and advisor. During his trial, Nassar claimed that he was the victim, attempting to deflect blame for his actions. He also tried to justify his behavior by claiming that the athletes didn't speak up sooner if they were feeling violated. Nassar attempted to defend his medical procedures, insisting that if there was any inappropriate arousal during examinations, it was due to a natural, uncontrollable response. The investigation initially faltered, and Nassar was temporarily released. But as more victims came forward, authorities finally took action. After being confronted again, Nassar's attempts to play the victim were no longer successful. He ultimately pleaded guilty to multiple charges of criminal sexual conduct. During the sentencing phase, over 150 victims gave emotional testimony about the horrors Nassar caused in their lives. One victim's statement resonated deeply, asking, "What kind of person has the audacity to sexually assault a child in front of their mother?" Another victim described how Nassar had destroyed her family, leading to the suicide of her father in 2016. As the courtroom filled with grief and anger, the father of one of the victims requested 5 minutes alone with Nassar in a locker room to address him directly.
I would ask you to, as part of this sentencing, to grant me 5 minutes in a locker room with this demon.
The judge, Rosemary Aquilina, denied the request, but the grieving father, frustrated by the court's decision, attempted to take matters into his own hands. He was quickly apprehended and removed from the courtroom by officers.
Well, I'm gonna have to get
Judge Aquilina, who had already shown a strong stance against Nassar, addressed him forcefully. She stated, "You do not deserve to walk outside of a prison ever again." Nassar was sentenced to 175 years in prison, ensuring that he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Judge Aquilina delivered the sentence, stating, "This is your death warrant." In 2012, Lucas Kendall, a 26-year-old security guard, shot and killed 29-year-old Keegan Bird while severely injuring Bird's friend, Michael SMS, who was left permanently paralyzed from the waist down. The incident took place outside of Club Lex in Miami, Florida. Kendall approached the two men after spotting them using drugs in the parking lot, and a confrontation quickly escalated. Kendall unleashed a barrage of bullets on the two men, resulting in Bird's death and SMS's severe injuries. Kendall was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and attempted murder. During his time in custody, his defense team raised concerns about his mental health, leading to an evaluation of his competency to stand trial. Kendall was moved from prison to a mental hospital, where his lawyer argued that housing him there was necessary to prevent further mental decline. At the hospital, Kendall's condition worsened, and he was found sitting in a fetal position, not eating and not interacting with anyone. His mental state became a key issue in the case. However, the victim's father, Donald Bird, was vocal in his frustration. He insisted that Kendall should not remain in the hospital, saying, "My son is dead. He needs to go to prison. He wasn't crazy when he killed my son."
My son is dead, man. My son is dead. He needs to go to prison. He don't need to be laying no mental hospital. He needs to go to prison, man. Come on, church. He want to play crazy. He wasn't crazy when he killed my son, man.
The victim's father was escorted out of the courtroom after expressing his anger, but Kendall was eventually deemed competent to stand trial.
You kept shooting him while his back was under the truck. You kept shooting him, man. You kept shooting him in his back. His back was turned to you, man. He was trying to get away from you, and you murdered him, man, like you.
Kendall then shocked the court by deciding to represent himself, stating he didn't want a lawyer and would not participate in the trial. The judge advised him against this decision, but Kendall remained firm, During the trial, Kendall attempted to use Florida's Stand Your Ground law as his defense, claiming that the shooting was justified. However, his defense didn't convince the jury, and he was convicted on all charges. Ultimately, Lucas Kendall was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.